Hi, this is Bob Weiss. I'm the host of Shaking Your World. Cheers. Folks, I'd like you to welcome you home to our page and our mighty podcast. Here we are at the Shaking Your World, and this is another one of the Tell Me a Story concepts that we have going on. And I am delighted to say that an old friend of mine has taken the time out of his very hectic schedule in Charlotte to appear via Zoom. This is Fredrick Gordon, who is one of the cool kids on campus in Milwaukee for many years and really ran the damn city. Fredrick, welcome home. How are you, man?
Baba Lou, it is a pleasure to be able to see you and to speak to you after all this time. I'm doing great. Believe me, I am not hectic. I am not busy. I am retired and just enjoying the lifestyle here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
And a beautiful part of the country at that. Congratulations on the retirement and all the cool things that you're doing with that. Good for you.
Well, coming out of the pandemic, we're just getting started here. I was up in Milwaukee for a few days, and my daughter goes to graduate school at the University of Michigan. So I was in Ann Arbor and got a chance to go to Detroit. So it was a nice Midwest spring for me, and the weather was good. So I had a great time.
I bet you did. So we're busy here at Shakers. We are crazy busy. And as we talked, pre-publication on this, that I had gotten out and with my film crew, and we were in 5 different cities in Savannah, in Charleston, in New Orleans, in Miami, and in Key West, filming different parts of a different segment that we're doing potentially for Netflix. It all depends how that edits out. But I was stunned at how well Milwaukee is doing and how well Shakers is doing in comparison to other parts of the country that notoriously have a much larger base than we do in Milwaukee. And I think part of that is because they are so overly reliant upon the tourist industry.
Right.
That without that being there, they're kind of dead in the water. So Savannah was perhaps the one exception, and that was about 95% active. And there's a real nice vibe with that, but New Orleans was dead. I mean, there's no soul to the food of those few restaurants that were open. This is months ago. Charleston to me was the same way. Miami had become kind of thuggy. And Key West, well, if you're retired down there, that half of the island probably is as idyllic as ever. But if you try to do it down there, you're pooched. And we are so fortunate up here, and the dynamic in Milwaukee is that there is life taking place, and people are going out, and there is this incredible scene that is alive for restaurants. So again, I'm happy.
From what I'm seeing when I watch the NBA Finals, and the Dare District is just amazing to me.
Yep,
I've not seen anything like that. Certainly this season. And I think that it's wonderful for the downtown area. And I know that you have been doing a fantastic job reshaping and reconfiguring Shakers. So people are having a good time in Milwaukee. And I'm glad to see that, because the Dare District notwithstanding, as you know, there are other things that are going on in the city that certainly need more attention to.
Well, this is really a remarkable city in many ways. And even just as in the past, my sauce were sold everywhere and my tours are now pretty much out and about the country. This is home base for me. There's something special about the people. There's something special about the lifestyle, the architecture, certainly that's here. And this will always be my home. And I really appreciate the opportunities that Milwaukee has given me. But as you indicated, there are some challenges taking place with Milwaukee right now.
Yes.
And I had the Common Council President, Chevy Johnson, in last week for an interview. And that will be published sometime this week. And I'm curious what your thoughts are as the guy on the sidelines now, after the couple of terms that you had running not just the finance committee for the city of Milwaukee, but as a very prominent and always in front of the camera alderman, because you're doing something, not just posing for pictures. I'm sure you've got some thoughts on the direction of Milwaukee right now.
Oh, I certainly have. Milwaukee's my hometown. I'm proud to be a Milwaukeean. I missed my friends when I was back there. They had a surprise get together for me and had a lot of fun, and saw, a lot of old friends, colleagues from my days on the city council, Jeff Polinsky, Jazzy Jeff, and Nick Anton, of course. These people are absolute crazy people, so I had a great time with them. But the other side of the city that I was exposed to left me kind of disheartened. As you know, the history of the city and, the hyper segregation that has existed, for so many years, is now kind of like being coupled with just a rash of lawlessness that I haven't seen personally in quite some time. When I talk to colleagues of mine and friends of mine on the north side, it's a different story. And as a senior citizen, I'm proud to be one. I'm talking to a lot of people who are my age and older, and Babalu, they're having a tough time. The reckless driving epidemic that's taking place on the north side has just really got people petrified. People are afraid to go out. They're afraid to drive. It's really something that I haven't experienced during my time there, and it's been a few years since I've been gone. But clearly, in the last three years, it's really gotten bad. And the main arterials, on the north side, 76th Street, Capitol Drive, Hampton Avenue, Fond du Lac Avenue, Sherman Boulevard, parts of the neighborhoods that I used to be the alderman for, are now plagued with this reckless driving, where these young people just drive without no care in the world, and they have no concern about their lives or others. I was personally involved in a situation there when I was visiting, so I got a chance to see it up close and personal. And I'm sure that President Johnson from the Common Council is certainly aware of this, and part of this district has been affected by it as well. So that is kind of like, it's a tale of two cities in a sense, where you are, and the Deer District and the near South Side are enjoying a renaissance in many respects, but the North Side is still plagued by those problems, and we just seem not to have a grip on how to resolve this. And I think a big part of it has to do with the police department. I have not seen something so mismanaged in all my years of living in Milwaukee and being in city government. So that really has me concerned as we are in the middle of this summer and things are going to be happening. I know that there are the Summerfest is coming up, but there's some real problems on the streets of the north side, the central city, that need to be addressed.
Since you brought up the police department, how would you change things?
Well, first of all, I get a chief who is committed and who wants to be there. The current interim chief is a friend of mine. I know him well. I think he's an outstanding police officer. But that interim tag and just the chaos that seems to be going on there, it needs some vibrant leadership. I just think that the Fire and Police Commission and the department are loggerheads for whatever reason. I'm sure there's several of them that exist, but that would be the first thing that I would change. We need a police chief who can lead. We need a police chief that the rank and file can trust. I think Jeff Norman is that guy. And that's because I know him personally. As you know, I worked with former Chief Arthur Jones for several years. So I do have an awareness about, what happens when you have a police department that has strong leadership. And right now, I think that that's the one thing that needs to be dealt with. This lawsuit involving former police chief Morales has really undermined the rank and file from what I've heard. And I think that has to be resolved so that the city can get back to being a safe city as it once was, but at least in part, that needs to change. We need solid leadership on the police department to lead it into a period where people can feel safe when they drive around the streets.
Certainly, we've had some significant missteps on the part of the city attorney's office as well. And I think if they can work better with the Fire and Police Commission as far as the handling of former chief, or now again, as of today, Chief again Morales, I understand, it would have been a different scenario. And or perhaps they could have found a way just to have paid him off, moved him into a retirement situation. And
which is what I thought they were going to do.
Which is something they should have done, save the city a lot of time, energy, and certainly overall resources. So one thing that I've kind of gleaned from others that I talk to in the city on a regular basis is that with Morales coming back, that the FPC, Fire and Police Commission, intends to fire him as soon as they possibly can. And others that I talked to, your former colleagues, are saying, then what's the point of even bringing him back? If this is what you're intent in, it's more litigation, it's going to cost more money. So someone at the city really has to put their hand on that tiller and say, this is what we're going to do. If that means we're going to pay the man this amount of money and pay Gimbel, Riley, Garrett, and Brown that amount of money as well, close the caper, get on with it, and let's restore peace in the city of Milwaukee, that's a small price to pay, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is something, like you said, that should have been done a long time ago. I still have not been able to discern why this is happening. Clearly, Mr. Morales is in a position where he can have his cake and eat it too. He can get he has a nice pension. I know that for a fact. Whatever the payoff is going to be it 1 million, be it 2 million, that's more than adequate to deal with the department gaining its respect back and having a chief that is ready to lead. And the role with the Common Council, I'm still trying to figure that out. I really haven't had a lot to think about relative to that, but I'm sure that, council members want to have this cleared up certainly before budget season begins, which is right around the corner. So it's something that should happen, and hopefully it will happen. I know Frank Gimbel. I call him Mr. Clout. And I'm sure that he wants it to end so he can get paid.
Absolutely.
So let's just take care of this. Let Morales, go off to Oconomo Walk, where I understand he has a lovely home. And let's get back to the business of making Milwaukee a safe city and having the police department united for that purpose.
I can't agree more. But at the end of the day, doesn't this responsibility rest with the chief executive, who's the mayor? Isn't he the guy that really should be saying, let's end this?
Oh, who's that guy?
Yeah, well, there we are. A very nice man, by the way. But
very nice. Oh,
totally.
He and I were law school classmates together. That's how I know Tom Barrett. And I'm just kind of amazed at why he hasn't taken a firmer stance and at least said something about how this is affecting the city, because it is affecting the city. Milwaukee has an opportunity now with the Deer District booming and the possibility of a world championship coming to the Milwaukee Bucks. It should be exciting times for the city. It's opening back up after this pandemic. You're doing great, and I would expect him to be able to bring this to some kind of closure. But alas, not being able to speak to him personally. And, just reading what I read, in the Journal Sentinel, he seems to be MIA, and I don't get that.
I concur. And it's not just in this matter, it's everything since the pandemic began, and he just stayed ensconced in his house on Washington Boulevard and seldom came downtown. You can't lead a city that way. And, there was talk he was going to abdicate anyway when the DNC came to town, that he had the chance to go.
I heard that, yes.
Campaign at that point, and clearly they passed him by, and he was going to have then Cavalier Johnson as the president of the Common Council come forward. Didn't happen. I think that there's several people. I think Chevy has some phenomenal ideas. He has youth, he has vigor, and I think that not to be an ageist about this, but I think it's time for the mayor to go, abdicate, step aside, let somebody who has conviction for the city and the job take control of this and clean it up.
It's funny, Babalo, that you say that, because at one time I thought that Tom Barrett wanted to be Henry Meyer. And sometimes I still think that, because, there's just nothing coming from the mayor's office as far as direction, leadership, or anything else. So the question becomes, if he steps away or decides to retire, I think that would be well and good, for the city on many, many levels. But if he doesn't, then, who's a viable candidate? Because time is going fast, as you know. And before you know, the midterms will be here. And then after that, it's only a matter of time before we have another election cycle going on.
Right. And Tom has announced he's going to run again, too.
Well, yeah. There are all kinds of possibilities out there. And it's only a question of, what's going to happen now that, we've got a handle on this pandemic. Although I'm still certainly concerned about the woeful numbers of people who are vaccinated in Milwaukee County, for example.
Right.
And that's something that's got to be rectified in order to beat this thing for once and for all. People have to get vaccinated. I'm a stalwart for that.
Issues that have taken place in the Black community. And of course, I'm just the guy on the sidelines to comment upon this. You certainly could school me several ways over on this, but there has been hesitance, reluctance on much of the Black community to get a vaccine, going back to many things that our government has done with them. Tuskegee, all sorts of things have taken place. But I have suggested before on this program that what we should do is get a number of prominent Blacks, and that includes people in the police department, people in the fire department, people, county supervisors, whoever you can, to go out and do little pandemic clinics. Take it to that area, take it to them, and show them that it's not just the administration that wants this done. It's we, the people, want you as our fellow people to get inoculated and to get the vaccine. It would just make so much sense to me to have that take place, and I haven't seen any of those at all. We've done a couple of outreaches here where we work at different clinics and hospitals where we've given out or had the vaccines administered by nurses here.
Yeah.
And, as opposed to, bar and restaurant owners complaining about how bad business is, we approach this on the front side. Here's the science on this. Take care of the business. Get it to the people. Help the people, because without the people, we're all doomed, right?
Oh, so, absolutely. I agree with you totally. No, I agree with you totally. I've spoken to former Mayor Marvin Pratt about this, and other folks who have the same concern. With a 26% inoculation rate in Milwaukee County, that's just not acceptable.
Woeful.
And we've got to get this down. We've got to get people vaccinated. I know people have history, and you can always look back at history. But I've been vaccinated since February. I've had no problems. I've had no reactions. So I'm always trying to encourage people, particularly, in our age group, to get vaccinated, because there's no excuse for us as seniors not to be vaccinated. So whatever it takes, I think that's a great idea. Having folks go out, using churches. There are ways to get it done. People just have to step up and do it.
There certainly are. And we need, again, an initiative from the top, though, that's going to drive this bus.
Yes.
And again, we're missing the leadership on that. So Milwaukee, since you were running things in a way, has had tremendous development taking place. And some of that was focused on the DNC, but the number of hotels that are here now. So the concerns about can't have conventions because there weren't enough hotel spaces, well, that's obliterated. There are some extraordinary hotels, big names that have come here with a beautiful footprint that really have tried to engage the city. But again, I don't think that their attempts have been fully received because parts of the city are just kind of numb to this. And
and I think that's probably, again, it points to the leadership. It points to, how do we make Milwaukee the city that we know it can be? We all thought that, the DNC, when it was first chosen to be in Milwaukee, was going to give Milwaukee the kind of image that Charlotte obtained when it hosted the DNC years ago. I saw that as a win for the city on a lot of levels. And, the pandemic took that away. So the question becomes, all right, now what? With this stimulus money that's going to be coming to the city, and, my understanding that the mayor wants to spend it on the hop, that's not something that, I don't understand it. There's so many things that can be done and should be done. That's something that I think is going to cause a lot of controversy. What do you see relative to that? Does that help your business?
Not one iota. I mean, it's a lovely little thing that goes around in the circle. That's all it does. It doesn't service the universities, doesn't service the trade schools, it doesn't go to any educational facilities. It doesn't take people to their jobs. It doesn't do anything for the good of anything. It just goes around in a circle very slowly, I might add. And the premise that, European cities have these things going on, well, they've had this for many decades, and were built around that. But most importantly, they took people from point A to point B with a purpose, not just to go around in a circle. So I have yet to find people that, except for the city, people who embrace the concept of the streetcar and are behind this. And it seems like it truly is a folly. And then the concept of taking more money, including the city pension monies right now, and to use that to extend this makes even less sense to me. But
No, I agree. And so the question becomes, what's the council's position on this? I know how Bob Ballman used to think about it. I don't know what his position is now, but this is something that's got to be reconciled, I would think, rather quickly. That money is sitting there, and we know what happens when money sits and doesn't do anything. So I think that's an issue that's got to be resolved. There are so many things that can be done. The development that's taking place is all for the good for the downtown area and for the near south side, but that's got to be spread throughout the rest of the city. And there are so many needs that need to be dealt with. We've got to be, well, you all have to be very prudent about how that money is being spent.
well, Century City being one of those things that has great potential right now, and it's just got to be handled the right way. But you have to provide jobs for people, and then you have to provide transportation for people to get to those jobs. And once people have jobs, then many of the other ails kind of disappear because people are now they're focused on raising that family. They're focused on what they have to do to support that family and things of that nature. That changes the focus completely. Kids then are more obligated to be in school, to get educated, do something else. Education, in my mind, is the most crucial thing that there is, because it doesn't matter where you come from. You can do anything when you have the foundation, the fundamentals of an education. And the same thing with jobs. You have to provide jobs that have a living wage for people. So I watched the mayor this morning make an announcement of getting more federal monies for another jobs program. I'll tell you, as I spoke with Alderman Johnson last week, is that there are a significant number of jobs available just in the restaurant and the hospitality industry, not to mention what we have of industry, and we can't fill those jobs. So there is plenty of opportunity for people right now that could go out and gainfully become employed and do something. But if you continue to provide people with money not to do things, they're less inclined to actually get that job. They're less inclined to take care of the housing or their other needs for their families. So it seems to me rather simplistic that I'm on the sidelines.
No, I think you're right on all counts. Here in Charlotte, we face a similar situation. Now that the pandemic is lessening, there are job opportunities. I mean, I remember years ago, we were always, talking about we need summer jobs for young people. We need jobs for people who are not going to school. Well, they're here. And the issue, as my wife is telling me, are these livable wage jobs? Can they be family supporting jobs? So the question becomes, all right, let's look at where we're going to be after this pandemic is through. Because I'm thinking, and I thought from the beginning, it's probably going to take a couple of years for things to return to some degree of normalcy. And during that period of time, a lot can happen. So again, it's about the leadership, Babalu, and you know that as well as I do. And hopefully, when the council members come off of their recess next month, they'll be able to, take a greater role, at least by showing that these needs need to be met.
What about the competition that seems to be there between the Common Council and the County Executive Supervisor's Office? What about that? It's always seemed to me as if you got some duplicity taking place that has a tendency to obstruct progress as opposed to helping to assist it to take place.
Well, that's a good point, because to be honest, I know David Crowley, but I knew him when he was young and aspiring. I don't know what's happening now with the county exec's office and the relationship between he and the mayor's office. Plus, a lot of the people that I used to deal with are gone now, retired or whatever. And it's just hard to get a handle on, what's going on. I've always been of the mind that, well, when you get newly elected, you need some time to, get settled and figure out what you're going to do. So maybe that's a big part of it. But I don't know what the relationship is. I know what it used to be back in the day between Norquist and Olson, but I don't know if Barrett has a relationship to any extent with the county executive at this point.
I rather have the impression that our esteemed mayor is more inclined just to spend time in his hovel, in his cave, and not have communication with others, and to just avoid things, which doesn't get things done, obviously.
Well, and that's it's so unlike the Tom Barrett that I used to know. And that's the unfortunate part. I never thought that there would be this calcification that's taking place with the mayor. And the fact that he's MIA is just a mystery to me.
Yeah, is that because Curley's gone and Brennan's gone and you don't have someone there to guide him every day and say, well, I'll stand here, sir, and the air's coming from this direction or something?
That may be. That may be, because I know that he did have, Patrick Curley and other folks there that had been with him for some time. But, at this point, you don't need those folks. What you just need to be out there and to just have a pulse.
Yeah.
We need a pulse from the mayor.
Yeah. Well, we have consensus on that. So again, we've got this beautiful Great Lake. It is. And I don't know if you had the chance when you were here this summer to take a look at what is taking place with the lakefront. It is gorgeous. It's always been gorgeous, but even more so now. And I
remember it as I was leaving. One of the things that I do miss about not being in Milwaukee is the lakefront. And, you talk about this development, the couture that's being proposed for the lakefront. Yeah, there's a lot happening in Milwaukee that's very positive. And I just want that to be shared by everybody. And again, it can be done if the leadership wants it to be. But no, the lakefront is a natural jewel, probably one of the best lakefronts that exist in the country. And it's one thing that I surely miss. But I have friends who send me videos of the lakefront on Facebook, so that makes me nostalgic.
Well, as the climate is changing, many of those beautiful things that are down south, like Key West or Miami, any of the coastal areas are going to have some significant challenges coming up with their water tables and or just being underwater. So I would imagine if you were a forward-thinking executive or administrator of the city of Milwaukee, you'd be looking at not just what you need to do today to make it more livable and conducive to people, but what's going to be like in 10 and 15 and 20 years as people really start to move up here because they can no longer live in those coastal areas.
Well, we talk about climate change a lot, and I was reading an article about the trends going forward, and the Midwest is going to be probably the last bastion of normalcy relative to being able to ward off those extreme weather changes that are impacting the West Coast and the Northeast. Mm-hmm. Here, we're fortunate. We live in a valley. If there are some rain situations that take place, they kind of come and they go very quickly. So we haven't had those kinds of challenges. But there's certainly those things that are on the horizon. I would hope that leadership, if Mr. Johnson, if President Johnson decides that he wants to make a run, I'll send him a check because that's what's necessary now. Milwaukee is in a position where it can advance, stand pat, or regress, and that's going to be based on the kind of leadership that it has, and it just can't be what it has been.
I agree. Like any other system, you change or you die. And if we allow ourselves to be stagnant, we're going to die. And it's got to happen fast, though, as you said. It must move forward quickly.
Well, I know you're not going to die, and I know you're moving forward. And I'm anxious to see, your expansion as you look at cities. We certainly could use something like that here in Charlotte because we don't have the kind of the bar scene. We don't have bars. We have very few bars here. So that's a big change that I noticed right away when I moved here. Mm-hmm. And it would certainly be a real addition to have something like Shakers here in Charlotte.
Well, I'm not sure about that, Fredrick, but I've enjoyed our conversation here. If you don't mind, how about if we got together sometime after Morales' situation is settled?
Oh,
perhaps Norman's in place, and we can talk about the future and perhaps some things at that point.
Absolutely. I'd love to do it. It's great talking to you. Great seeing you. If I had a cigar, I'd smoke one with you, but I don't. But I will.
Send me your address, Fred, and I'll send a little care package down for you.
I certainly will do that.
Bravo.
Absolutely.
My friend, I appreciate your time today. And for those of you out there that have bothered to tune in today, I appreciate your time as well. Any questions, you can email those to us at shakersmilwaukee@gmail.com. In the meantime, be good to your family, be good to yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.